Business owners, one of the smartest things we can do is hire out. Am I right? We can't possibly take on every project and every task while also trying to do what we love, have a personal life, and be the CEO of our businesses. There's literally just not enough hours in the day to try and post on social media, figure out paid Facebook ads, answer customer emails, update our websites, create new products. The list goes on and on. We also can't be expected to be the expert at everything either. And what I mean here is the reason we started the business that we started and followed our passions is just that. We wanted to create a business and make money out of something we're so passionate about. And we do that in our zone of genius. And that's the lane we need to stay in. Now, this is where hiring comes in. Enter outsourcing and collaborations and the strategic moves that let you really shine in your zone of genius and the passion that turned into the business that you have now. But here is the twist that I am delving into today on the podcast. What if things go south with someone that you have outsourced to and hired? What if that independent contractor relationship goes sour and something happens with your business's digital assets? Especially, what happens if they're poof, gone, and they vanish due to an independent contractor that you hired that deleted everything? Fear not, because I've got your back. In this episode, I will reveal how to safeguard your assets, navigate tricky contractor relationships, and stay legally sound when outsourcing and collaborating with others as your business grows. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, I promise you that this episode will revolutionize your approach to partnerships and protecting those partnerships and relationships. So stay tuned as we unlock the keys to success in the realm of service providers, independent contractors, and legal safeguards.
You're listening to the Legal Paige Podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. As a reminder, before we get into this episode, I am legally obligated to give my disclaimer. I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. All legal information I talk about in this episode is intended for the masses and a large variety of different businesses. Please seek out another attorney in your city and home state if you need specific legal advice related to your unique business. Okay, let's get back to it.
Okay, so to set up this podcast episode, I want to get into a nightmare of a situation that someone recently told me about so that I can really help you imagine how bad this could get, because it really did get this bad for someone in reality. Imagine that you hire a service provider, but things go wrong. Your relationship goes south. Someone is extremely disgruntled in that independent contractor company relationship. And then that contractor deletes everything on your online platform that they're working on. Every asset that they worked on for you is gone. Imagine here someone that maybe you hire for Facebook ads, and then all of your Facebook ads are deleted. All of your insights, analytics, targeting groups, poof, they are gone. You have nothing to look back on. Or maybe it's an email marketing platform where they are so upset that they just decide to delete all of your funnels. And the same thing here goes, where analytics are gone, connections between emails and triggers are gone, etc. So this has happened to someone that I know. This has also happened before from a conversation that I have had at a conference. So it is not in the realm of impossibilities. It is absolutely a possible situation, especially just with service providers and sticky relationships you can have with contractors. So what I want to go over is, what legal leg do you have to stand on now to recoup your losses, and how can you also keep this from hopefully happening in the first place? Now, as I mentioned, this was a real situation that was brought to my awareness, and it's one that I really wanted to address on the podcast because I felt I could better address it from a big sister, lawyer sister, Paige standpoint in my voice and my tonation. Because this is really something that can happen when dealing with two people, two different personalities, two feelings, two emotions. And oftentimes we are really, really, really close to our businesses. We're very attached to our businesses. And when we hire independent contractors out, we feel that they need to have the same connection and emotions tied to the business, when in fact, they just really don't. They're just contractors there to do a job. And when some of that gets meshed together, you can create really, really sticky independent contractor situations or employee situations for that matter. I think employees could do this too. I'm just speaking more to contractor relationships on this episode because that is most likely where this would occur, since many of you listening in hire contractors out when you're outsourcing and trying to get help in certain facets of your business versus hiring an entire employee. So whether this is a situation where things were deleted, whether that was intentional or not, as a business owner, it's important that you protect yourself and your business when hiring another service provider. And with independent contractors in particular, like I said, they have a lot of autonomy. And with that autonomy comes, I feel like sometimes more legal sticky situations and debacles that could occur. So with all of that, let's get into my advice from both a business owner's standpoint, so big sister Paige, who has hired many contractors before and has dealt with this in terms of people coming to me legally for suggestions and advice, and then, of course, giving that suggestion and advice with a legal lens. So first, how can you hopefully prevent this situation from happening in the first place with a service provider that you're hiring as a contractor? One is to know exactly who you're hiring. And this is a mistake that I made early on in my business. I see people who are service providers that are hiring other service providers make early on in their businesses as well, because we all have the best of intentions. We just think other people have the best of intentions. But do yourself a solid and do your research. So ask your fellow business owner, friends, family members, anybody that may know them for recommendations. Ask for this service provider's previous clients' recommendations. Essentially, what I'm saying is vet them like crazy. Don't take their word for it or let their own website or social media account that's full of the best testimonials, and who knows if those are even real, tell you that this particular service provider is good at what they do. And then make sure that there is a solid contract in place that protects both parties here. So typically, when you hire a service provider that is a contractor and you're hiring their business, hopefully it is a legitimate business that you are hiring them to do XYZ for your business, such as someone doing like Facebook ads for you or putting all of your information into a CRM system, or someone helping you particularly with your email marketing and funnels and flows. Or if you're hiring even a mentor or a coach or a funnel expert, even like a graphic designer, website designer, that service provider, because they own their own company, will normally, in most cases, I would say like 90% of the time, send you their contract, their like independent contractor contract, but it's really just on behalf of their business for you to sign on behalf of your company. When they send the contract, I want you to read through it carefully, because just as you send a contract to your clients for providing services, it is more heavily weighted towards protecting you. The same goes for this type of independent contractor relationship. So read through it carefully and make sure you're familiar with every single clause and stipulation in that contract. This is the big one here. If you take anything away from this episode, please be this. Feel free to negotiate on that contract. This is one of those like business to business contracts, B2B contracts, if you haven't heard that before, that are constantly negotiated in the business world. So I want you to be comfortable with what you are signing. And the only way to do that is to figure out how your business is best going to work with them. So things to be careful of in these independent contractor contracts that you're signing that a service provider is sending to you. Confidentiality. That type of clause should be there. Potentially a limitation on who else they can work with in your exact field of expertise. Some service providers will do this, some service providers won't. But if they don't, then absolutely you need a confidentiality clause that is literally lock and key so they don't give away anything regarding your business to other people. Also look for payment of a deposit or a retainer or booking fee. Then once services have been completed, you pay the remainder. So making sure that it's not an exponentially large amount for a deposit or retainer or booking fee, because you really want to make sure your services are performed by them prior to paying a lot of money. I see this happening a lot where independent contractors will just run away and ghost you and take your, deposit or retainer and then not complete all of the services. So try to avoid that. Something to negotiate as well. And if they come back and you have a discussion about this, then they know that that is something you are concerned about. And I'm sure they will put their best foot forward to complete services so that, payment isn't an issue. Also look into termination procedures. This is a big one. So what happens in this contract that they're sending you? What are they saying will occur if they have to cancel services, if they, are delayed or breach the contract for due dates of services and things that need to be completed or deliverables that need to be sent to you, and vice versa. What happens if you want to terminate the contract? Do you have to pay them for services performed? That's, pretty normal. But what about if you haven't gotten any of those deliverables, even though they say the services have been performed? So really look at termination procedures or cancellation procedure clauses in those types of contracts. Again, negotiate. Feel free to negotiate. I want you to read these contracts, these B2B contracts, especially if people have access to the big things that we've discussed here. Facebook ad management, email marketing management, any type of customer service management. When they have access to a lot of your intangible assets and things that you do not want to get messed up in your business, you need to look at these contracts with those type of outsourced providers even closer. And I say this a lot on the podcast, but make sure you have it in writing beyond just an email. Should something go wrong and one party does not hold up to their end of the contract, I want you to have a written document to fall back on. Make sure that they send you a contract is essentially what I'm saying, because one of the things I have seen is the big issues come about when it's just a he said, she said, they said situation. It's an email back and forth kind of contract or like an invoice kind of contract where there's not like an actual written agreement with clauses and all parties sign. I want you to have something to reference should further action need to be taken care of and you have to have a disagreement or a legal debacle come up. You need that legal document to look at. Also, one biggie here is that I personally have learned from the situation that the industry friend told me about is to own the platform and be the main user on it and then let the service provider have access to it. So don't let them own it, even if they're an affiliate or they're trying to like get you a discount and have you as a user. Now I know how treacherous and horrible it could be with all of the nuances that I can't tell you everything. If you can't tell, I'm being a little bit coy here, but just for confidentiality purposes, I want to respect these people in this particular situation. But it is way easier for you to lose assets if the service provider owns it. And I know that you're like, duh, Paige, but it happens, and it happens way more than you think, because it's like you really like them. Maybe you've worked with them for a while and now they're like thinking, okay, let's go to this platform that I am now an affiliate for or I have lots of practice on, and I'm just going to like make you the platform. Don't let them make you the platform. You make the platform, you make the login credentials, you be the one who owns it. And again, with Facebook ad management and digital assets like email marketing, any type of cloud-based, massive document share, All of that should be on your business platform within your own login so that you can go on as the administrator and kick them off or restrict access immediately when you start to kind of suspect fishiness. All right, so after your working relationship is underway, you've signed this contract, you've negotiated, you've both come to terms with things. Just personally, I want to say here, I learned a thing or two from, this industry provider coming to me with this nightmare of a situation. I went and negotiated the crap out of my Facebook ads management contract that they sent to me, and they were happy to. And it made me so much more at ease of hiring these people because they really were in it to help me and to help our business and to do what they were passionate about doing, which was managing Facebook ads and making, getting contracts in the hands of other entrepreneurs and helping our business. And they weren't just in it to be like, no, massive red flag, this person's trying to negotiate my contract. It actually felt better because I thought they were way more professional in being open to negotiation with me. And I was like, that's a leg up for anyone else that I would have tried to contact to manage our Facebook ads, because I felt a level of friendship and understanding with them that I knew would certainly serve us well into the future. That's just a little sidebar there. But negotiation is okay, and it absolutely can happen. Just stand your ground, be professional, be kind, and I'm sure all parties can come to an agreement. And if they don't, then it's probably not the right person to work with, to be very frank with you. So when your relationship is underway, another thing that's super, super important is keeping your passwords in a secure location and some type of encrypted, key-coded online cloud platform. And you only give out singular access to the service providers for certain platforms and not your full admin access and business emails and passwords. Essentially, only give the service provider what they need to do their job well. I don't want you to give the whole kit and caboodle. And be careful with how you share passwords, because it is easy to change the password yourself as the CEO, or to make sure that things are done and completed so that they don't delete the program and they don't delete all of these things. But if you're sharing beyond the scope of the access that they really need, sometimes they can have the ability to delete things in your platform when you hopefully didn't. You were hoping that they didn't have that access. So be really, really careful of that. And then finally, I recommend creating copies and backup files and screenshots that only you have access to. So for example, a copy of your ads, if they are providing your service, of the graphics created for your sale, if that's what they're providing to you as an independent contractor, maybe screenshots of your email funnels if they're in your email marketing platform, Google Docs of the copy and text that they're using, if they're putting together different PDFs or different online collaterals that feature copy and text. I want you to have separate copies of these Google Docs that have all of your intangible assets in there, and so on. So again, I want to stress, not every interaction with a service provider will be negative. In most cases, they are positive, and coming from experience, most of mine are very, very positive. But things do happen. Computers crash, people have personal things that go on, tensions can run high, they're not as emotionally attached to your business as you are, and things can also be accidentally deleted, and then things can be intentionally deleted. So even if it's not a total negative reason why things may disappear, you have to prepare for something like that to occur, because it's just the nature of the beast of hiring out someone. They aren't as careful as you may be with your business online. Okay, so now I want to get into what to do if they do delete everything and it poof vanishes into thin air. And one whole thing that you've spent thousands of dollars on and probably hundreds of hours of business time on is now no longer there and you have to start over. So what happens if that worst case scenario situation occurs? Remember, again, real situation that happened here to a business owner and was brought to my attention. So when this happened and, they didn't put a bunch of these different things in place, protections in place, safeguards in place, this just happened. And now they have to kind of tread backwards and figure out, okay, how can I salvage anything, if anything, right? So first, as soon as the relationship starts to go south and the service provider that you have hired, especially as an independent contractor here, remember, it could be an employee, but I'm not going to go into the legalities of employee, mishandling trade secrets or doing things they're not supposed to do, like deleting different things, because that's actually a way bigger legal battle. And that's why employees don't really do this that often, because they know it's that much of a big legal battle. But in terms of an independent contractor, remember, they are not holding up their end of the agreement, and the contract has now been breached. So due to the breach, I want you to change your passwords. I want you to restrict all access. Again, this is a bit of a prevention measure, but before they hit delete or before tempers can fly really high, and I'm sure you're starting to get emotional and things are going awry and you're jumping on calls or Voxers or Slack messages and things can just be said that could trigger someone to the point of doing something, I want you to revoke all access and protect your business. And some people are like, I don't want to do that because it's literally going to escalate the situation more. I don't really care, because at the point of revoking access, all of your digital assets are secured. And then you can deal with the tempers flying and, crazy emotions going on and like escalations. But at least you've protected your business assets. And then I suggest sending in writing, so preferably through email and not through like Slack writing, definitely an email that you can, have as a protection measure and layer of proof and evidence as well, should you have to go back to that. And in writing, you're going to say that you've revoked access and per the contract and agreement, this is a breach on their behalf. Explain what the breach is and that your relationship is now being terminated. And here are the steps to termination. Like, you are taking control. They have breached their own contract, or maybe the contract you sent to them. I'll get to that in a little bit. But definitely they've breached their own contract 90% of the time, like I said. And state why the breach occurred on their end. Not just what the breach is, but why it happened. Get it in writing. Don't be emotional. If you can't send the email yourself without being emotional, get an attorney to send it for you via a cease and desist letter, or a cease and desist email or breach of contract letter, or at least if you've listened to my podcast before, I always like a 24-hour buffer. And give yourself some time. In this case, though, it's really hard for me to be like, give yourself a 24-hour buffer to send the email so that you can look back on it and make sure that it's not emotional and it's just pure professional and business. In this situation, I'm kind of like, what is a double-edged sword here? If you wait too long, things could be deleted and things could happen. So it's better to send it immediately, honestly, even if it's a tiny bit emotional. Okay, I'm kind of retracting what I was going to say, but hopefully you get my point here. The sooner, the better, immediate, send this email, talk about breach of contract and explain what the breach is and why. And then also keep top of mind that you can always hire an attorney to do this for you. Just know that could take time. And so if it's better to send this email yourself and then hire an attorney to send a cease and desist, you could do that as well. I would also remember that they will likely enforce their cancellation policy in the contract because, again, their contract is probably better for them and protects them a bit more, which is why I said negotiate to begin with, so that maybe it's a little bit more two-sided before you sign. However, usually they aren't going to sign a contract or work for you if the cancellation policy doesn't at least favor you paying them for work to perform, which means that they may try to have you pay for their final services rendered, even if they are the ones that massively breach their own contract. It's crazy. It's a crazy world out there, but this occurs all the time. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend paying a final payment due if a massive breach has occurred and you've endured damages to your business, monetary or non-monetary wise. So if you can sort that situation out between you and the service provider to kind of come to a mutual resolution as to how to end the relationship somewhat amicably, at that point, I would, if you can't do that, then I would reach out to an attorney in your state because your business assets, reputations, and money is certainly at stake here. So again, try to resolve it as much as possible. Again, we're back in like settlement negotiation kind of situation here, but just remember they're probably going to try to enforce their own cancellation policy, even if they're the ones who breached. And so you're going to have to navigate through that. Next, if the relationship goes south and things do get deleted, before you can safeguard your assets, I would do these three main things. First, change the passwords right away of the things they did have access to so it doesn't get worse. Or at least contact the platform themselves through customer support and inform them of the situation, and maybe see if there's a back-end way through the platform to recover assets and or delete this service provider person from the account that you have, right? Just make sure that they can be completely off of it. And oftentimes there is a back-end way to go in and be like, okay, what login was doing X and I didn't, allow that or approve that. And so sometimes the platform can have recovery systems in place, but it's always good to check. And then 2, I would review the contract that you had with this service provider and refamiliarize yourself with who actually owns what in terms of assets for your business. This is also good when you are negotiating as well. And I didn't say that, but, copyright ownership of work made for hire assets from a service provider, particularly an independent contractor. Usually they need to transfer those to your company upon work completed. So even if this contractor created these things for you, there should be some type of work made for hire clause in your contract explaining that the work they create for you is immediately owned by your company and they have no copyright ownership over any of it. And then the third thing here is I would go through emails and any work you had approved and try and salvage whatever it is you can. So those are the 3 things that I would do if things start getting deleted and people are kind of starting to get petty and vengeful. And, this is like, this is protection mode times 10. And then after that, I would calmly decide what your next move is. I know calm is a word that you would not think about or try to use, but just remember, big sister Paige here. I'm on your shoulder being like, we have to try to take the emotions out of this. I need you to put on your CEO hat. I need you to try and be as calm as possible. I'm not saying like you're going to be 100% calm here, but let's get a little bit closer to the calm side of things. And don't put too much in writing out there on the internet that you don't want to further escalate the situation. So what I'm saying here is don't take your frustrations out on Google reviews in the heat of the moment. Don't go and DM your friends and colleagues about this situation. Don't go talk about it in Facebook groups. Like, please, please, please try to take a few deep breaths. Do what I said with the email, the breach email that you need to send to this service provider. This is just between you and them at this point. Don't make it public. Like, don't get it too far out there that even more could go wrong. And then, as I mentioned before, reach out to an attorney if you're really in a pickle and it's massive dollars on the line, like an email funnel that's now gone and generates an upwards of like tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for you a year. Because in this situation, you need to keep your CEO business blazer on, and letting tempers fly will only make things worse. So it's best to have a third party in that situation, also known as your lawyer, speak on your behalf. They oftentimes will talk and listen to a lawyer way more and do things that a lawyer says. It's just kind of like the fear factor of it all, when a law firm is sending them communications instead of you. It means you've lawyered up and you're more serious about this breach and contractual debacle that's going on. So then I would review with this attorney what your damages are, what you're entitled to, review the contract, make sure they're going through all of this, and then decide what is worth it to you as the business owner. Because remember, if you decide that you want to go like a lawsuit route or, it further enforce a cease and desist and try to go to collections, you need to think of the time loss, attorney's fees, court fees, etc. And for some businesses, it's absolutely worth it. And for tens of thousands of dollars on the line, it is absolutely worth it. And I think just based on principle, it's worth it. But for others, if this is like, it's not a huge part of your business, they have breached, we're only talking a couple $100s here, it may just be a wash or a loss if you're willing to take the hit from it, time-wise and monetary-wise, and move on. So you have to decide which route you want to go. And I always, if I'm advising like a one-on-one client of things like this, whether that's a copyright infringement or whether that's a contractual breach of contract when it comes to a service provider not performing services or upholding their end of the agreement, you still have to make this decision, and only you can make this decision. Lawyers can only assist you and telling you the outcome, the possibilities and outcomes that could occur from, either path you decide to take. All right, so let's recap because this was a bit of a, lengthy episode, but I want to stress that all service providers are not evil. They are honestly, the majority of the time, really great to work with, really passionate, and most are good. It's just that one rotten apple in the bunch that I want you to be prepared for and just educated and aware of. I want you to have knowledge, and just by you listening to this episode, you have just like even a couple little things that you're like, oh, I remember Paige telling me this, or the Legal Paige mentioned I need to do this, and you'll remember to do it so that you don't fall victim to the worst of the worst happening in this type of circumstance. Here are some takeaways. Do everything you can to prevent the situation from happening, right? We talked about that at the beginning. It starts with being a smart business owner. Reviewing these people like crazy. Get sturdy referrals, review the contract that they have in writing what the working relationship between you and them is all about, and expectations of all parties. And if at all possible, own everything they create for you as an independent contractor. Work made for hire clauses, copyright, trade secrets, confidentiality, you need to own all of it. Next, set up safeguards within your business. So we talked about passwords, giving access to what the service provider needs to do their job well is only the access that they get. Also keep copies of whatever you can, screenshot things, every week, every month if you can, of different platforms, making sure that you're downloading analytics so that you have those if something were to get deleted. And this is not only going to prevent the worst from happening, but it's just a smart business move as a business owner that sometimes we forget about to do. And then finally, should worst case scenario happen and things get deleted, revoke access right away, even if damage is already done. Wait before sending communication to the service provider. If there's like flying tempers, it's not going to help the situation, but don't wait too long so that things get worse. Try to send something at least that explains the breach of contract, what that breach was, why you are claiming breach of contract, and revoke access all at the same time. And that just needs to be an email between you and them. Don't make things public. And if you can't do it and it's not something that you're comfortable doing, or you think it's only going to make things worse, have an attorney do it for you. If they're able to do it quickly, that would be great. Sometimes attorneys can take a while to take on the case and get you set up as a client. So, even if that might be the best option for you, time is kind of not on your side. So you have to weigh all of that. And then, of course, even if you send an email and you're thinking about hiring an attorney, that may be the time then to reach out to an attorney just in case, a response occurs that you're not comfortable with responding to, or they lawyer up when you send this breach of contract email, you are prepared. So maybe after that, it's time to still reach out to a lawyer in your state. Now, if you need help getting legally legit in your business, please know that you are here. You are listening to the right podcast. And I want you to have a rock solid contract in place, one that protects your business inside and out. So we at the Legal Paige Shop have a ton of contracts for service providers if you are the contractor working for the company. But remember, 90% of the time, they're probably going to send you their contract and you're going to have to negotiate it. If they don't have a contract, though, don't be like, okay, cool, we're just going to have a handshake deal or email. If you are the company hiring the contractor and you don't like, or you don't like their contract, you can also send them your own independent contractor agreement. We have a really awesome one at thelegalpaige.com that is a really good base independent contractor agreement for you to work off of, put in the scope of work, and it protects you as the company hiring them. And I have used this with probably 30 to 50% of the contractors that I hire. If I'm just not loving their agreement or they don't have one, I always send my own independent contractor agreement for them to sign. And then I'm in control of what that contract says. So remember that we do have contracts for this, but for the most part, you are probably going to be given a contract from this company, an independent contractor for you to sign, and then you negotiate and go from there before you have signatories on it. Okay, before we end the episode, please be sure to join the Legal Paige Facebook group where thousands of entrepreneurs just like you are getting real-time answers about running a business, especially when things go wrong. So if you have something remotely similar to what we discussed on this episode happen to you, that is a great safe place for you to post in a group so me and my legal team can respond to you quickly and help you navigate those first few steps of the yucky situation. Or we can at least get you a legal referral ASAP with our trusted list of attorneys in various states. So definitely go join the Facebook group. If you aren't already in there, you just go to Facebook and in the search bar, type in the Legal Paige community, and we'll get you in there as a business owner so that you can have access to myself and my legal team for real-time support. And my friends, that is all I have for you in today's episode. I hope it was very fruitful and insightful for you. I know it's not a fun topic to discuss, but it's one that is really important to know about navigating these like weird service provider contractor situations that could come up and probably will come up in your business journey. So if you have any questions or comments about this episode, feel free to reach out to us, like I said, in the Facebook group, or you can find me on Instagram.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Paige Podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpaige.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.